Welcome back, everybody, to the final match of today's online qualifiers. It's going to be a best of 7 between Team Is Butter a Carb and Team Luminosity. We've seen some amazing matches out of these teams so far today, and this one is shaping up to be easily the best that we've seen so far. These two teams are absolutely amazing, and we will be getting right into this match, actually. These teams are raring and ready to go. We will be starting off on the Grand Arena, and it's going to be, like I said, Luminosity versus Is Butter a Carb. Of course, Luminosity we just saw win 3-0 against Team Hands Up, which was an amazing series. They played super well. That is, of course, going to be Shamguards. They had Smexon and Danny Carey. We do have Smexon stepping out for Maldiva in this matchup, so they will be running Enhancement Shaman. It looks like Affliction Warlock and Resto Druid. But on the other side, it's going to be Is Butter a Carb with Rosita Jones, Chanimal, and Gorecki. 3 amazing players that absolutely deserve their spot in this finals as well. This is going to be a best of 7 series, and whoever wins this best of 7 is going to the Americas Regionals.
Yeah, securing that spot this early in the summer is great for these teams because we do have 2 cups, which you can earn your spot in regionals in those cups, but they are going to be incredibly tough to make it through, just like this one. We have 2 great teams in these finals. Best of 7. Here we go.
Absolutely. So coming right out of the gate here as it opens, we're seeing Rosita Jones moving already out here, wanting to get super on the offensive right at the start, but Shamguards is responding to that by coming out here and punching the crap out of him as well. Rosita Jones maybe overextending a little bit here. Shamguards actually, though, is going to have to pull back a little bit as that Shadow Fury down on Rosita Jones, just trying to stop the damage he's putting out, but the Icy Veins is now coming out as well. Are they going to be able to diffuse the amount of damage that's coming out here? Chanimal's getting all of his dots up also, but Shamguards is still looking like he's totally fine right now. Tons of healing coming out from Danny Carey, keeping him alive, no problem.
Yeah, Rosita Jones is just trying to CC, but Danny isn't letting him whatsoever. Same with Maldiva. Look at where Maldiva's playing, compared to where Chanimals is playing. Just they're able to stay way more offensive, and Maldiva is just playing scared basically behind the pillar, just non-stop, peeking out to get the dots out when he can, because he has that target of Rosita Jones just standing in their face casting.
Yeah, definitely, and Rosita Jones is starting to get punished for that a little bit. Actually going to blink over here to try to drop that Ring of Frost down on Danny Carey, but he was actually able to, instead of the Ring of Frost, he was able to get that Polymorph. Danny Carey was caught out of form, so he was able to use the Polymorph instead, which is just a little bit stronger as a CC than the... Whoa, actually, no, super low dipping there. Rosita Jones having to use that Ice Block, and it actually kind of looked like from the health for a second there that Gorecki had used a Spirit Link, but no, he was actually able to hold on to that. But that's the first Ice Block out for Rosita Jones.
Yeah, and Rosita just playing really offensively, and that's what can happen. That Ascendance forced the block, so that was a good trade overall. That's definitely the kind of thing that you need. Maldiva has used one of his Dark Souls, but Chanimals hasn't yet, or he has his first one back up at this point. So that's going to be something that they can rely on. Of course, 2 minutes on that Cold Snap now for Rosita, so has a little while to play with before he can be afraid of losing due to no blocks. So Maldiva polyed up at that point. As Danny Carey, look at the positioning. It's just great, constantly staying right behind the pillar when he needs to. As I say that, he gets deeped in bear form, so that is going to be ringed off of it, except another Shadow Fury to stop that ring. Maldiva doing a great job. That's pretty something you definitely have to look for if you are a Warlock, if you're playing Shadow Fury. Whenever your healer gets deeped, make sure that you're there to interrupt the CC.
Yeah, definitely. It's usually a pretty strong indication that the mage is going to move in and try to get a Polymorph off, especially if they're able to catch the Druid out of form like he was able to earlier. Now, Shamguards might be in some trouble here. Actually getting caught out in the open a little bit, caught in the Shadow Fury as well. Danny Carey is in that Deep Freeze, but they are not able to follow that up with the CC, and they're just trying to keep as much damage onto Shamguards as possible. Shamguards actually starting to look like he might want to chase a little bit over here, and he's going to get caught into that Polymorph for just a second, and then have to turn around now with another Polymorph on him again. And Maldiva's Dark Soul is now going to fall off. So great job by Is Butter a Carb, actually sort of diffusing that situation. Gorecki is super low on health, and he just got a refresh fresh of those damage over time effects on him, so he might be in a little bit of trouble as Rosita Jones is now caught out here as well. But Rosita Jones does still have that other ice block available, and it looks like they're going to just try and turn this back around, possibly onto Maldiva here.
I mean, that was actually a good play by Gorecki. The reason why he was so low is because he was spam dispelling all of that UA during the Dark Soul. The second Dark Soul from Maldiva comes back up, so let's see if he can do that again. But as you look, the duration of there's no UAs up right now, so that's what he wanted to do. He's running the glyph that heals cleansing waters, so it heals every time he dispels, so that, it offsets the UA dispel just a little bit on himself, but it's great to see that he's choosing to do that, because now they've shut down 2 Dark Souls. Now the team is able to go offensive onto Danny Carey because they're full life. The dots don't mean anything at this point. It's a great play.
Yeah, definitely. And it looks like he is actually going to be able to just keep those dispels constantly rolling out. And you can see how well that's working out in his mana. He's at 98% mana, dipping just a little bit there for a second, but since that cleanse is so cheap compared to some other spells that he could be casting, it prevents so much damage. As long as he's able to keep doing that, they're going to be totally fine. But Rosita Jones now taking a bit of damage yet again, trying to get some damage out onto Danny Carey. He does get the Deep Freeze, but it was not able to get that Ring of Frost down. He would not have been able to polymorph either because Danny Carey predicted that was going to happen and went into bear form immediately as soon as he saw Rosita Jones moving in to get off that Deep Freeze. Maldiva, though, dipping kind of low a little bit. Danny Carey is still able to heal him up, but Maldiva is going to have to pull over behind here, and this means that some of his dots are actually about to fall off as Gorecki is stuck into this bash.
Yeah, that's what they were going for. They were waiting for many UA dispels. Oh, that bash could be trouble for Gorecki as he ports away at this point, but Shamguards had his Ascendance up, and it looks like it was just fading at that point, but Gorecki still in trouble, having to link. So that strat of dispelling UAs, he actually got punished for it by Danny Carey with that blink stun. That was a great job.
Yeah, definitely, but Maldiva having to use his Dark Regeneration to keep himself alive here, as he's just constantly been getting punished. Every time he tries to poke out and start getting his dots back up again, Rosita Jones and Chanimal just punish him for it and make him have to dive back behind the pillar again. Of course, as I say that, Rosita Jones and Chanimal both taking quite a bit of damage themselves, and actually we do have a dead pet out here. It actually looks like, oh, excuse me, that's just because Chanimal is actually running a Sacrifice, so he was able to sacrifice his pet and start to up his damage a little bit from that, as well as gaining that extra interrupt on himself.
Shamgar's trying to hit the water elemental, but knows it's not a great idea because he's by himself. His healer's actually off drinking right now, drank up to 95%. That is great, knowing that this could be a long matchup with these two teams, as Shamgard is going to get polyed out in the middle with a deep onto Danny Carey also. Let's see if they can follow up. They did follow up with the ring right now. Yep. Danny's caught into there, into the ring, as Rosita Jones doing a great job. Gets Shadow Fury too, but there we go. Now we're going to see the offensive pressure from Chanimal with that Dark Soul coming up, trying to get a bunch of casts out and a bunch of UAs, as we have some haunts on to Maldiva too, so we'll see if they can get some damage out with that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that they weren't able to line that damage up with that excellent deep freeze into Ring of Frost that Rosita Jones was able to pull off, because it meant that as soon as they were actually even able to start putting any damage out, Danny Carey was there just to be able to heal through all of it. So they're going to need to be able to line up that offensive pressure with those CCs a little bit better. Of course, Rosita Jones now getting punched in the face by Shamguards constantly. Punch meter is full right now for Shamguards. He's just beating the crap out of Rosita Jones at every single opportunity. Now warning back over here, says, no, I'm not done with you yet. I'm going to keep punching you this entire time. And Rosita Jones may be actually in a little bit of trouble here, down to 50%, 40% health. They may be able to force an ice block out of him, but no. Gorecki does manage to land some good heals on Rosita Jones, and he should be fine for right now, as it looks like they're actually trying to turn this back around. Oh, no, they're going to go on Gorecki.
Yeah, no, that's really smart. Again, we do have Shamguards that was chasing Gorecki, but Gorecki gates away. Great positioning, knowing that he was a target they could swap to because of the last time it happened. Mm-hmm. But again, Rosita Jones down kind of low. Gorecki again gets a full line of dots on him from Maldiva with that Dark Soul, as we do have a couple members of the team CC'd with that Shadow Fury. And look, now tossing down that Cloudburst again to try to get those huge heals out from Ascendance, which works great with Cloudburst Totem.
Absolutely. And we can see that Gorecki has had to more or less entirely... Ooh, that was a nice big heal on Gorecki immediately before that bash came in, so very, very well timed on that. Now he's going to be caught in that Cyclone, though. Chanimal may be the target of choice at the moment. No, actually, they're swapping over onto Rosita. They're just constantly keeping up pressure back and forth. It's just going back and forth on them constantly. Shamguard's just taking every opportunity, punching whatever is in range of him, going from Chanimal to Rosita and back again. And now it looks like he's going to go back over here onto Rosita. Rosita might be in trouble, down to 30% health. Gorecki actually trying to get out some healing surges here and keep him alive, but Gorecki's kind of caught out in the open. He could be punished for this if he's not careful. And it looks like Team Carb is going to have to pull back behind this pillar here again very shortly if they want to be able to top themselves back up and start getting offensive again.
And we see the soul swaps coming out from Maldiva, trying to keep those dots running onto Gorecki. He has been dispelling a lot of them, but we do see a fresh UA out on to Chanimals too, as Rosita does not have any UA whatsoever, but we are seeing those remove curse from the mage. That's so important. The amount of damage that you lose when your agonies are constantly dispelled is gigantic.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a huge source of damage for the Affliction Warlock, and losing that is just such a big deal, especially in a situation when there's so much rot pressure available from this and the sheer burst potential that the Enhancement Shaman can pull off. But once again, you just have to look at the health right now and just see how well they're actually able to do. Carb is all sitting right around the 60-70% mark, and that's actually pretty good for them. They've been just having such a hard time. Gorecki's having such a difficult time keeping his entire team topped off. But we could be seeing at any moment now, basically, yet another offensive push from Luminosity, and these have been some very, very scary pushes, and the longer this match goes, the scarier they get.
Shamguard's down to half right now, but he does have all his defensive cooldowns available. He does have that Sham Rage, which is probably what he would use in that situation. Chanimal's down to half right now. Seems like this game is just going to go probably into deep dampening because of the amount of healing and defensive advantages each team has. We do see the Dark Soul coming out from Maldiva again, a Shadow Fury right on top of it, followed by Fear. Chanimal's doing a great job of identifying that these dots were coming out as Maldiva's trying to push up, and they decide to play defensive as the Comets come crashing in. Looks like not too much damage onto Maldiva though, but it is going to force him to play defensive for a bit.
Yeah, definitely, and I feel like that's what Carb really needs to do right now, is to try to get Luminosity on the defensive again. They just need a little bit of time for Gorecki to heal his team back up, as we are starting to get deeper and deeper into dampening. We're at 32% right now, and if they can just start pushing Luminosity to the point that they need to think a little bit more about playing defensively, that will give Carb a little bit of time to top everybody back off. But now Gorecki caught out here in this bash. He could be in a lot of trouble right now. 30% health. He does have both Shamguards and Maldiva beating the crap out of him at the moment. That is going to force the Spirit Link, but they're all so low already that the Spirit Link does barely anything. Now Chanimal and Rosita Jones both in trouble as well. Gorecki still being chased by Shamguards all the way around here. He's gonna pop the Ascendants and start trying to heal his team up. Rosita Jones caught out in the open, in so much trouble, may have to block here, but he's still holding on to it. There it is. The ice block does come out from Rosita Jones. He's going to be totally fine, and he does still have one more ice block available.
Yeah, and that was the Ascendants that ended up forcing that ice block right there, but also Sham Rage from Shamguards. I think he used it to purge off at that point, purge off a bunch of debuffs, as does look like they want to go onto Chanimals, who's getting dangerously low at this point. Wow, the Dark Soul comes out, but he's also getting some heals from Gorecki, another Link, and like you said before, oh wow, Shamguards instantly killed that Link. It did disperse the health a little bit, but Gorecki is in a lot of trouble. 40% dampening at this point. Gorecki super low on life, down to 44,000. Still, I don't know how he's alive at this point, but he is taking a bunch of damage, but he's in front of the pillar. Yeah, there wasn't much he could do at that point. It was smart plays by the team of Luminosity.
Yeah, they were just able to stick onto that entire team so constantly, and Carb was just not able to force them into a defensive position at all. And Team Luminosity looking extremely strong right now. They were 3-0 in that last series, and they're already up 1-0 fairly convincingly, I would say, in this match. So we'll have to see if Carb will be able to come back in this next match, as it will be their map pick, and they will have the opportunity to choose composition after they find out what composition Luminosity is going with. I don't know that Carb would really switch up too much. They did play a match with Citrix earlier as the Holy Paladin, but that may be a switch that's worth considering, but they've been doing very well in their previous matches with this composition, so I don't know. We'll have to find out here very, very shortly as soon as we find out what map we'll be playing on, as well as if there are any composition swaps.
And these teams have a lot of option. Like the possibility of swapping in Smexin to maybe try to hit the Shaman during these teams, especially in these long games that, with Warrior offensive pressures, with a proc, an execute proc, being able to toss those cooldowns, Blade Storm on top of it, that kind of stuff, might spell defeat for the Shaman. But like we said, they have such a deep roster. They can do so many different things. Like, for example, if we look at Vanguards, he has 3 characters ready, including his monk.
Yeah, including, for whatever reason, if they decide to go Mistweaver Monk and say, let's just do that, like, that's something they totally have available to them. They have Smexin, like you said, for the Warrior. Maldiva, I believe he only plays the Affliction Warlock. And Danny Carey can also, he's actually played his Mistweaver Monk a lot in the past, and he does have that Resto Druid available as well. So there's a lot of different ways they could go with this. If for whatever reason they wanted to do Smexin and Maldiva, that could even be an option for them. But we'll have to see where this ends up going. We will be talking to these teams, giving a little bit of time. Obviously, this is a very, very important match for them, so we need to give them a little bit of time to make sure that they know for sure what choices they want to make here. Personally, I'm not really expecting a comp swap too much. I think maybe that Holy Paladin might be worth considering, but we'll have to see what ends up happening. We do have Ruins of Lordaeron as the map, and yes, in fact, there is no composition change, so same teams yet again. We will be coming in here to Ruins of Lordaeron, and we will have this second match underway here very, very shortly with Team Is Butter a Carb down 0-1 versus Team Luminosity, who are looking absolutely impeccable in their play right now.
Yeah, I can't see any changes happening. It looks like Gorecki may have changed a glyph. Let's take a look and see. Looks like Cleansing Waters yet again, swapping that in because he knows he's going to be against an Affliction Warlock. So that paid off really well in the last match. So let's see, Rosita Jones, standard, nothing too surprising off of that. And of course, Chanimals, again, playing Sack. Choosing to play Sack, so he has that option for his pet. And Danny Carey using Nature's Vigil this time yet again. So pretty standard out of both teams. Same with Shamguards, Totemic Projection, really the one thing that would be swapped around. And that's what he has. So we'll have to see if Gorecki can keep his team alive. He was doing a great job at the beginning of last match, and he was really the one that could let his team play offensive. Took some risks with the UA dispels, but played out well for his team as Rosita Jones, again, just deciding to stand right in the enemy team's face. Really wants to get over to Danny Carey to try to get some CC out.
Yeah, definitely. Shamgar's punching Rosita Jones like crazy, just trying to keep out as much of that damage as possible. Maldiva has actually used he actually got, I believe, just accidentally wandered into that Ring of Frost for a second and got feared onto his Dark Soul as well. So he hasn't gotten to use nearly as much of that Dark Soul as he really would have liked in this situation. And in fact, he's just now getting up a full row of dots. He still doesn't have a full row on Gorecki. Of course, Gorecki sitting at half health, like you were saying in the last match. It's probably because he's just been spamming Dispels as much as possible. But his team, actually, the entire team of Is Butter a Carb is already at around 50% health. Even with those dots getting dispelled, Luminosity just able to keep up the constant pressure on everybody on Is Butter a Carb. Yeah, and Chanwell's Dark Soul is fading right now. And again, look at that. So many dots were cleaned off that he didn't have anything to say for at the end of that Dark Soul, as he should have had all of his dots up at that point, as we see a lot of soul swaps coming out. As you can see, Is Butter a Carb completely dotted right now, but Gorecki doing a great job of getting some heals out, as he is going to eat another UA Dispel, as he's just going to do that constantly. Every time that cleanse is up, he's going to use it over and over. Yeah, definitely. The amount of damage that he takes is nothing compared to the amount of damage that he saves for doing that, especially if he can do it in a way that messes with Maldiva's ability to spread those dots around using Soul Swap, should he choose to do that. But Gorecki now down at about 50% health, taking a little bit of damage over here. Shamgards gets caught into a couple of polymorphs there, which is going to keep him from being able to really keep up that pressure. Fortunately for Gorecki, it's going to give him a little bit of extra breathing space here, as Is Butter Carb is really trying to get as offensive as possible here, even though Gorecki now caught into this Cyclone, and Rosita Jones looking like he's going to be maybe in a little bit of trouble here. No, actually he's going to go ahead and use his Blazing Speed, come over here and trying to put a lot of damage into Maldiva. Maldiva dipping down to 30% health. Danny Carey in that Polymorph. The Iron Bark does come out onto Maldiva. Now the full fear onto Danny Carey. He's going to get broken out of that right away, and Maldiva actually looking like he's going to be completely fine.
Yeah, that was a great play by Danny Carey. Even though he was sitting in that CC chain, he was able to sneak in the Iron Bark in between it. As the Dark Soul Haunt comes out of Maldiva. Maldiva's still taking a lot of damage, actually, as we see that stampeding roar, as Maldiva is able to get away and out of that Ring of Frost. But Danny Carey caught in the Ring of Frost because of it. But Maldiva seems okay at this point. You know, we do see the orb coming out as Rosita is going to try to stick to Maldiva, but the port lets him get away. Danny Carey just keeping him topped as much as he can.
Yeah, Maldiva doing a great job of kiting both Rosita Jones and Chanimal around it, basically doing loop-de-loops around the tomb in the center of the map here on Runes of Lordaeron, and using his port as a way to sort of get them out of position and then port over to it and just be completely safe in that situation. Going really, really well for Maldiva. We may be seeing that again here very shortly. No, he's actually just going to go ahead and walk over, just trying to keep up as much pressure as he can. Gorecki still just dispelling like crazy. Actually caught into a UA dispel there for just a second, into a bash as well.
Gorecki. Yeah, that bash leads up as Shamgards is going to get Ascendance and then immediately sheeped on it. Sheeped again as he gets out of it, finally trying to get some damage onto Gorecki, but Gorecki is already gone. That was a great play by Rosita Jones, knowing the instant that his Shaman was in danger and able to CC off. Maldiva, you know, really trying to get all those dots up. His damage has been great this game, forcing Gorecki to dispel a lot, to heal a lot. As we see a Cyclone coming out, looks like it's not going to land as Danny Carey does get feared away. Has to sit this full fear, as but not too much pressure coming out as they swap the sheep onto Shamgards too, so this cross CC is great. They need to do that so they can start to focus on Maldiva, and it's great that they are choosing to go on him because it's working.
Yeah, Danny Carey now into that deep freeze, could be in some trouble here. The Shadow Fury comes out as well, but no follow-up CC after that. Maldiva gets the Iron Bark, and he should be fine for now. He's dipping at around 50% health, but Danny Carey has gotten himself over to the side and gotten a whole row of hots out onto Maldiva. Maldiva now feared temporarily. It looks like they're just trying to lock him out of using as much of that Dark Soul as possible, as he's going hard on Gorecki right now. Gorecki having to dive over here behind this line of sight blocker, this little tomb over here that was added in Warlords of Draenor. Able to get out of line of sight there for just a second as his team continues to try to push up. But Luminosity is at full health. Every single member of their team is at full health right now.
Wow, Rosita Jones blinks in for that poly because he did get knocked away, as we do see the Icy Veins just fading, but the Dark Soul from Chanimals is up right now, but they're standing on top of each other. They're still going after Maldiva. Those Ice Novas come crashing in as Maldiva gates away. Entire enemy team gates away as he gets a huge heal from Danny Carey, able to survive that onslaught. So that was a good trade by Luminosity, but I think is Butter a Carb not really making anything happen with that. I expected they would, considering how they just gave up their position advantage to make it happen.
Yeah, definitely. That was kind of a weird push from Isbutter at Carb. They moved in there and weren't really able to make much of anything happen off of it. They have just now gotten the Iron Bark out of Danny Carey onto Maldiva, and now Danny Carey into that deep freeze, into the Polymorph on top of that. He does still have everything available except for that Iron Bark, including his trinket, so if he wants to, he can break out of this at any point, but he's just going to sit through it because Maldiva is completely fine. The heal over time effects that are just ticking on him constantly are more than enough to keep Maldiva alive through that entire onslaught from Isbutter at Carb, and now Maldiva has his Dark Soul active, and it looks like they might be trying to go over onto, possibly even swapping over onto Gorecki here in just a second as soon as that Cyclone falls. No, it looks like Rosita Jones might be their target of choice. He's got his Blazing Speed. He's coming over to the side here. He may have to Ice Block. In fact, he does. Ice Block will go off, and he does not have another one available for another minute.
Yeah, that's going to be quite a while before he can. You know, Gorecki might... There we go. Now Gorecki is going to get his positioning that he wants, which is behind this, and is going to start dispelling those UAs yet again. We really need to see some offensive pushes out of Isbutter a Carb. Of course, Rosita Jones is going to have to play a little bit more scared than normal, not having a block available, but we see the Dark Soul come out of Chanimals. Let's see if he can do anything with it, but he's going to start getting shut down, and this is what they need to do. Ascendance comes out of Shamgards, so Chanimals, maybe that's the answer to it, that they're going to force Chanimals to play a little bit more defensive job because of that Ascendance, but he is going to get chain CC'd on the Ascendance. We see the Sheep swapped onto Maldiva also. This is a great job of answering cooldowns.
Yeah, definitely. They're doing a great job of shutting down the pressure that Maldiva is able to put out as well with those polymorphs swapping around, but Chanimal's still in a lot of trouble. Gets a big heal there from Gorecki. Going to be able to top him back off again just before this Cyclone lands on him. So they're actually going to now swap around and say, you know what, we'll ignore Chanimal for a second. Wow, he's actually choosing to trinket that. Looked like they were trying to make something happen, possibly onto Maldiva there for just a second, but I'm a little bit iffy on that trinket choice. He only had about half a second remaining on his Cyclone, and they really weren't in a position to really capitalize on that. So that's maybe getting a little bit ahead of himself for that trinket choice, as now he's down to 40% health and could be in a lot of trouble here. He's kind of stuck out in the open away from his healer a little bit. Gorecki now into that full fear. Gorecki does have his trinket available, but he's gonna not actually use it. Now the Spirit Link has to come down instead to be able to keep his team alive. That Spirit Link's gonna die right away, and now Gorecki has he's got a lot of work to do to get his team caught back up. Of course, Rosita Jones now with that Ice Nova trying to make some damage go into Danny Carey. Yeah, he's trying to blink out of there. He does have that Bark Skin available, and he's going to be able to get over here out of line of sight, but this of course puts him out of line of sight of his DPS as well. They may have been able to make a swap happen there, but Danny Carey's right back here in the thick of it, able to cast those heals, and it looked like there would try to be a Ring of Frost there for just a second, but it was not able to land, and now Chanimal is in a lot of trouble himself.
Yeah, the team is Butter Carb. That was a great swap onto Danny Carey, but wasn't able to follow up with it. Great job of Maldiva CCing Rosita Jones off on there, because Danny Carey did get pretty low with Barkskin up, as Chanimal's trying to refresh his dots on all targets. But Danny Carey, again, just doing a great job of dispelling off both of these healers, doing a great job of keeping their teams clean, as Gorecki getting some huge heals out onto Rosita Jones right now.
Yeah, definitely. Rosita Jones does once again have his Cold Snap available, but he's actually holding on to the Cold Snap. I think he's hoping that he won't need to use his other Ice Block. And he will be able to have the cooldown come up on Ice Block without having used Cold Snap, which would put them in a great position to start turning around and being offensive once again. But he may not be able to, because just so much pressure coming out from Luminosity. Gorecki having to come over here behind line of sight and actually drop that Cloudburst Totem to be able to heal his team back up again. Chanimal is taking a little bit of damage himself, having to play super defensive. Like, this whole team is having to play so defensive right now. They are trying to go onto Maldiva, though. He does get the Iron Bark. They don't have any CC lined up for Danny Carey. The Cyclone comes out onto Gorecki. That could spell trouble for Chanimal, as he seems to be taking the brunt of the damage right now. He does pop his Dark Soul. There's a fear onto Gorecki. Chanimal, though, getting super low, and Chanimal just goes down.
Wow. Oh, that Ascendance damage. That's what they were setting up for. Wow, that was a lot of damage. I was expecting, especially against this team of Affliction Warlock and Enhanced Shaman, that, when the time was coming for his death, it would have been, nice and slow. But that was a great job. Danny Carey blinking in for that stun, followed by the Cyclone, really set up the kill. Great job by Luminosity.
Yeah, definitely. So that's going to put Luminosity up 2-0 versus Is Butter a Carb. And that also, it's worth noting, Luminosity has not dropped a single map this entire, at least this section of the tournament. I'm actually going to go and check and see how they did previously. No, they have not lost a single map this entire tournament thus far. Luminosity playing absolutely flawlessly. Yeah. So we will be finding out what map Is Butter Carb would like to try next. At this point, now that you're down 0-2, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that Is Butter Carb should think about maybe bringing in Citrix?
They almost got a couple kills on Danny Carey there. I mean, maybe that's they really didn't capitalize on that in the first match. So maybe this time around it might be better for them. It's hard to say. This is a tough matchup for this team. Having that Enhanced Shaman is exactly what they needed for this matchup. So Rosita Jones does a great job. So does Chanimals, and Gorecki's team. I think they're all doing the right thing. It's just, I don't know. Maybe faster swaps onto Danny. It's hard to say.
Yeah, I think there were a couple of opportunities there where they could have, because they're actually doing really, really well at getting Danny Carey out of position. They're forcing him to run away and get out of line of sight and be able to heal himself back up. And that may open up an opportunity for them to swap over onto Shamguards or Maldiva at that point, and maybe try to make something happen there. But it's really tough to say, because Luminosity is just playing so well in these matchups, and the amount of healing that the Enhancement Shaman is able to put out, even in those cases where Danny Carey gets put out of position. It's pretty impressive. So we will be finding out what the next map will be here very, very shortly. As well as if there are any of those composition swaps. They are available to either of those teams. We're just going to have to see what Is Butter a Carb would like to do. They are going to take a little bit of time to go ahead and talk over things. We do allow every team, I think it's a total of 5 minutes to sort of, in between matches, like to sort of sit back and say, okay, look, we're down 2-0. If we lose this next match, that's it. We want to be able to put up a fight here. We want to be able to come back. And these guys absolutely can come back. These are amazing players. They're totally capable of coming back from this and actually coming back and winning this series. But they need a little bit of time to think about that and talk it out a little bit. So we're going to give them a couple of minutes to be able to sort that out and figure out exactly what they would like to do. Yeah,
and since Luminosity is up 2-0, I mean, this is something that they can kind of throw a curveball in with a comp at this point. You know, it might be something that Is Butter a Carb doesn't have an answer for. It's tough to say, but they do have a deep roster like we were talking about before. One of the things to note is Team Luminosity, since it does have Danny Carey on it. Earlier, they knocked Team 3 Bromigos out of the tournament, which is Thugonomics and Novos' team.
Yeah.
So that is a little grudge match maybe, because they used to play together and actually made it to BlizzCon really far.
Yeah.
So it's a great team so far.
Yeah, definitely. These guys are playing super well. We do have a comp swap coming in. Luminosity.
Oh, you know what? I heard that they are very good at this comp too, from the online ladder. Yeah. So Luminosity is sticking with Enhance, Affliction Lock, Resto Druid, and Is Butter a Carb is moving on to Balanced Druid, Frost Mage, and Holy Paladin, which of course is what the team Shake It Off likes to play a lot. But I heard that Goreki on balance is incredible.
Yeah, and Goreki is one of the best multi-classers in the game. He's extremely good at playing multiple compositions or multiple characters. A lot of times you'll see people mostly stick to like the same role. Like Danny Carey, for example, he plays Restoration Druid and Mistweaver Monk, which they're very, very different classes, but they're kind of the same thing. You kind of have to approach the arena in the same way. Goreki, switching from the Resto Shaman over to the Moonkin Druid, that's a completely different ballpark. You go from hiding behind the pillar trying to keep your team alive the entire time to sort of running out in the open and saying, yes, please hit me so I can kill you. So we'll have to see how well he's going to be able to do that. I'm really, really glad to see them mixing up the composition a little bit, though, because what they've been doing, like you said, they've been playing it incredibly well. They've been doing all of the right things, and it's just not working against this team.
Yeah, and Rosita is, you can really tell when he plays offensive, he really starts to make things happen. But in that matchup, when he has that shaman on his back, just purging him constantly, it's rough for him. Like, he wasn't able to set up the same type of plays as he did in previous matches.
Absolutely. So we're going to give them just one more minute to sort of discuss their plans here. I believe... I'm not sure exactly what map we'll be playing on, so hopefully you can find that out here very shortly as well. Yeah, this is an exciting match coming up. Again, it is...
They haven't played Tolvaron yet, so I think, if I had to guess, I think we're going to go with Tolvaron on this one. It's hard to say, though, but this would be a map that I would probably pick with this setup.
Yeah, definitely. So we do have, as soon as we get in this match, it will be 2-0 in favor of Luminosity. This is a best of 7, so they will have to win 4 games before they actually win the entire series. But we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break, give them a little bit of time to talk this out, and we'll be right back here in just a moment with the last few games of this series. Stick around. Welcome back, everybody. We are here once again with the final match of the North American Online Arena Qualifiers. The teams are ready to go. We're going to be going into Dalaran Sewers is actually the map choice. It was interesting. We were kind of expecting them with this comp switch to actually go after a much larger map like Tolvaron Arena, but no, they're going for one of the smallest maps available of Dalaran Sewers.
Yep, and so we'll have to see if that'll pay off. You know, we did see Citrix in a couple matches earlier, and he did a great job. So, but Goreki on Moonkin is going to be the curveball, because it's Tough to say because we haven't seen him play this yet in tournaments, but I would have to assume that he is ready for this. Interesting thing to note is that he's not going to be going for a lot of those root beams. Obviously, on a Resto Druid, it's not as great. So he is going to be playing Incarnation instead of Trance.
Very interesting choice here. And I like that they're switching it up at this point in the match. They're down 2-0, but it is a best of 7. So if they win this match, they can still drop one map after this and still be able to come back from it. So if they win this match with this comp swap, that gives them the opportunity to sort of build a little bit of momentum for themselves from here, instead of having to worry about, okay, well, if we don't win every single match from here, then we're screwed. But Gorecki already moving out here, getting in there and mixing it up a little bit. The Fist of Justice coming out on Shamguards, actually doing their best to shut down Shamguards as much as possible here, and he's going to already have to pop his
Shamanistic
Rage, yeah.
And that's an important early cooldown because it was layered on top of Ironbark also. But both of those have a pretty short cooldown, about a minute, so he'll be okay in a little bit. As Gorecki, again, just trying to spread those dots out, but it does look like Danny Carey is doing a great job of dispelling them all, so that's going to slow down his procs. It's a very important part of Balanced Druid right now, as we do see Gorecki, trying to get Cyclones off. Not really doing a great job of it so far. We really got to see something special out of him.
Yeah, it's worth noting that Shamguards is, of course, running the glyph of Shamanistic Rage, which allows them to use it to dispel harmful magical effects.
There we go. And now timers coming out of Gorecki. We do have the odd choice right there, but we do have all the timers coming out, and he's just going to dump those Star Surges into Maldiva, but Maldiva doing a great job of line of sighting. We have the bash onto it too, but not a lot coming out of Gorecki's damage for these huge, massive cooldowns, because they're both 3 minutes. And as the beam comes down also, catching both Maldiva and Shamguards.
Yeah, it was interesting. Maldiva actually was taking a lot of damage there, but there were some really, really beefy heal over time effects from Danny Carey on him that it was kind of amazing. I saw Maldiva take a couple of big chunks. He actually dipped down to about 50% health in that, but immediately was topped back off, and Danny Carey was in a polymorph at the time. So I suspect that Shamguards was also helping out on that healing, and that's one of the major benefits of having an enhancement shaman on your team, is just the sheer amount of off healing that they're capable of. Of course, Shamguards now kind of stuck over here. He was stuck in that Fist of Justice, and he does get the Ironbark to be able to stay alive. Gorecki jumping a bunch of damage into him. You can see those big, meaty Starfires falling onto him. And of course, at any point, there could be a couple of Star Surges right after that to be able to finish him off. So you always got to be really, really careful when you're playing against a balanced Druid and watch for that crazy amount of burst that they're able to put out.
Yeah, Rosita Jones is, again, playing quite offensive, normally taking the midfield position on all of these maps so far. As you can see, Shamguards really doesn't want to push down and fight him, but Rosita Jones just channeling Frostbolts into him over and over and over, getting those icicles ready for a burst, possibly. As we do see a sheep come out, doesn't land on anyone. Maldiva's Dark Soul is, however, doing a lot of damage. Rosita Jones down to half right now, as we do see that cap totem tossed on top of Citrix, as he is going to have to use the on-use trinket plus wings right there, as Gorecki is going to try to do a little bit of damage. He still has about a minute on his cooldown, so he isn't too worried about posting up for damage quite yet. But as you can see, Danny Carey's HOTS are doing such a great job. The entire team is full.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I also think it's important to note that with the swap to using Citrix as the healer, that does mean that they will have Save by the Light available. So when people dip low, it's not quite as scary as it used to be. So Rosita Jones running around at 50% health, he's not in as much danger as he would have been in the previous match with the Shaman healer instead. Of course, he does there get the Execution Sentence on him, which is going to heal him right back up. And now with Maldiva and that Cyclone and Danny Carey now into this Deep Freeze, he's caught out of form. They are going to be able to get the sheep off onto him. Shamguards immediately drops his Shamanistic Rage, recognizing that the pressure is going to come onto him. Are they going to be able to follow up another CC onto Danny Carey? No, it does not look like. No, excuse me. The Cyclone lands on him as well. So they might be able to continue up this pressure onto Shamguards. But just look at how much Danny Carey can be CC'd this entire time, and his entire team takes no damage because of the sheer amount of healing that he's able to put out with his heal over time effects.
Danny Carey does get beamed, but is right out of it, shifting away from it, doing a great job of blinking out and then able to get back into his position. As he does get deeped, as we do see a ring on top of it. Let's see if it hits him. Note, the ring was interrupted as another fear goes out onto Rosita Jones. Maldiva doing a great job. Those quick fears coming out with the Dark Soul as Rosita dropping down again. They're choosing to play defensive. The thing to note, though, is they did get Shamanistic Rage, although it is back up shortly. But that was without using Moonkin timers. So we'll have to see if Gorecki can make something happen, because last time that wasn't an excellent use of his cooldowns.
Yeah, definitely. He does have those available, which could be very, very scary for Team Luminosity if they're able to get him into a good position. If they can get Danny Carey either caught out of position himself or forced to run away for just a second, they may be able to make something happen. And it looks like maybe what they're going for here, they are going to get the Deep Freeze onto him, and the Comet Storm coming out, trying to sort of push them back a little bit here. That Frost Orb as well, trying to push them out of here. Citrix actually caught
lots of
way
damage
out to the
on it.
side.
Danny Carey having to use a couple cooldowns. And again, this is Gorecki's big timers, both Celestial, Alignment, and Incarnation. But Rosita Jones out in the middle of nowhere by himself right now with Shamguards on his back. Look at that damage.
Yep. Yeah, he does have to use the Ice Block there. Of course, Shamguard's now actually having to take an opportunity to heal himself back up because he had taken quite a bit of damage as well. This puts Rosita Jones in a little bit of a scary situation here for just a second, as I believe the Save by the Light had procced there as well. So he could be in a little bit of trouble while this Hypothermia is still active on him. He's going to get knocked down. He's going to have to blink over, try to get back into line of sight of Citrix to be able to keep himself alive. These Shamanistic, the Feral Spirits are just all over him constantly, just making it so difficult for him to get top back off, but Citrix is able to do that.
And now
it's turning around on the Shamguards. Yeah, it's taking so much damage in a hurry there. Now frozen out of there. Danny Carey is not in a CC though, so he's able to spam a bunch of heals right away and top Shamguards back off, but that's the sort of crazy, scary burst that Carb is going to need to be able to capitalize on good situations if they want to be able to win this match.
As you can see, Shamguards really has to push up to do any damage. He's just hitting the Water Elemental at this point because he has no other valid target right now, as Rosita Jones is trying to set up on him yet again, as Maldiva down in the corner just trying to toss out a couple dots. You know, anyone who's poking their heads out at that point is getting a full row of dots from him, as Gorecki kind of playing the midfield too, which is what has been successful for Rosita Jones, as Rosita Jones blinks in. Oh, but he knew it was coming and got a fear immediately. Great job. Plus thrown away by Danny Carey. So this is a great job. Oh, wow. And so that Typhoon led to the block. It was great. Shamguards is going to use Ascendance at that point, as Rosita Jones gets out of the block immediately. He had the Save by the Light absorb effect up at that point, but the Dark Soul...
Oh, but Shamguard's caught out of position. He's having to use his Shamanistic Rage. He is going to be able to get out of line of sight over here, but Danny Carey getting knocked down. Now he could be in a little bit of trouble, but no, he's going to be completely fine with that Shamanistic Rage and those big, meaty Maelstrom weapon heals on himself, topping himself back off. He's going to be completely fine.
All right, so that was a lot of damage onto Shamguards, which did force the Shamanistic Rage, which, but unfortunately, that's going to line up with the same time that the Moonkin timers are going to come back up. So maybe they forced it a little too early in that situation. You know, that might be the thing that they're going to go and capitalize on. But they do have Nature Swiftness and Iron Bark down, so that might be a good position at this point, because both of those were used to keep Shamguards alive. So now all Gorecki has to do is get those Star Surgers maxed up going into these timers, which are going to be up in 10 seconds.
Yep, he of course will need to make sure that his balance bar is at the right side when this happens, so it may not be immediate,
there it is.
But it is. Oh, there it is, going right now. Gorecki... Oh, actually, it looks like he's not quite able to use those just yet. The beam did come out, and he's just going to go ahead and stand in that beam. Shamguards is taking so much damage even without those cooldowns yet, and this is great for Carb, because that Shamanistic Rage is now going to fall off. And any second now, Gorecki will be able to put out a whole ton of damage. Of course, Rosita Jones's Icy Veins has now fallen off, so it's not quite as scary as it could have been in this situation. We're basically just waiting for Gorecki to push that button, and then it's going to be Danger Town for Luminosity.
Yeah, and I don't know if they were trying to bait the Shamanistic Rage at that point, but oh, there we go. Now we have the timers coming out. Rosita Jones taking a lot of damage, but so is Shamguards getting quite low. We hear the wings come out from Citrix right there, but he is going to get triple feared on that with a bash onto Gorecki. Also, Gorecki is by himself, though, caught in a Cyclone as the ring does come out. He was trying to catch Danny Carey in it, but that might actually end up being a great defensive ring because Shamguard cannot cross it. Well, there he goes, as he must have gotten dispelled out of it. Gorecki standing still just for a second. Rosita Jones trying to get some icicles up by doing a little bit of damage onto Shamguards, but Rosita Jones taking a bunch of damage. That enhanced shaman damage, damaging quite into him as Shamguards gets cycloned also.
Yeah, and I think that push against Shamguards was actually a lot scarier than it looked like, and now he's actually taking a ton of damage again. That Shamanistic Rage will have to come out once more. But during that last push against Shamguards, Gorecki actually blinked in and tried to use his Typhoon to actually knock Danny Carey out of position, but he missed it. And if he had been able to knock Danny Carey out of position, they could have actually scored a kill on Shamguards there. So it's unfortunate that Typhoon did not land on him. But now both teams actually kind of backing off a little bit and possibly just getting ready for their next opportunity. Ooh, Danny Carey is actually getting a drink over here in stealth, in cat form, and he's going to be able to come back with pretty much full mana and come right back over here and start keeping his team back up as they're turning it back around onto Rosita Jones.
They are Rosita Jones down to about half right now, but he does have Saved by the Light available, and it does proc right there. But since we're 30%, wow, yep, 30% into dampening, that wasn't that big of a shield as he has to block there. But they're immediately going to turn it back around onto Gorecki. Gorecki's going to do a little bit of damage since he is being hit by the melee as Rosita Jones tries to get a ring down out of that to try to keep Shamguards off of him, but not able to, was interrupted. Maldiva doing a good job of keeping those dots up. You know, you can see that Citrix is trying to dispel as much as he can off of it. But again, Rosita Jones pushing up for that CC, playing that midfield. It's exactly what this team needs. Rosita Jones is almost the buffer that they have to push through to try to get to Gorecki or Citrix.
Yeah, definitely, and I like that Gorecki is constantly dry. Ooh, excuse me, as I say that, Shamguard's dipping down to 30% health, having to pop the Shamanistic Rage, and once again running out over line of sight over here, and at the same time, they've been putting all sorts of Cyclones into Maldiva, which has really shut down his damage output. Unfortunately, Rosita Jones is still taking a ton of damage. He does get the Execution Sentence, which will help keep him alive, but he does not have an Ice Block available for another 10 seconds. He could be in a lot of trouble right here if they're able to come around over here, so Citrix is going to have to use his Divine Shield to keep Rosita Jones alive long enough for his Cold Snap to come off a cooldown.
Yeah, and that's what they need to do, but Cold Snap is now back up. He hasn't used it quite yet, as they are going to push forward because Moonkin timers are going to be up in a couple seconds as they're pushing in. That Cyclone was not followed up on with that ring, so Shamguards is fine right now. So I'm curious on the target that they're going for. We do see the deep, but Gorecki is not there to be seen. There we go. Yeah. Now we have Moonkin timers coming up, but Rosita Jones is going to be pushed quite low. Saved by the Light procs, but it's already chewed through. He might have to block here. No, he gets bopped instead. Really risky against an enhanced shaman, but he's not able to purge it off quite yet. Lots of purges coming out, but no.
Maldiva, though, down to 9% health. Maldiva almost got annihilated there with so much damage onto him. He does use the Dark Regeneration, but this damage is still going like crazy. If they can get, that nice offensive Cyclone onto Maldiva, moving in here just long enough for the Fists of Justice to come onto Danny Carey. He's going to trinket that immediately. Gets caught into the Deep Freeze, though. Maldiva at 13% health, trying to get fears off. Does manage to land a fear onto Gorecki, which immediately gets dispelled. Maldiva's still in so much trouble. The full polymorph onto Danny Carey. He has no way to break it. They might be able to get Maldiva right here. He's sitting at 30% health, but they just can't connect with him. He's doing an amazing job just running in circles around these boxes, and they have not been able to catch up with him, and now Danny Carey is out of that CC chain, and Maldiva is getting topped back off again.
Well, there is a Cyclone onto Danny Carey as Shamguards is also in that ring. Maldiva down to half with Rosita Jones. During that entire assault, it did not use that block, which is huge.
Yeah.
That was very important. Maldiva down to half, though, with a Fist of Justice on to Danny Carey again with the Iron Bark coming out onto Maldiva. Rosita Jones, that's yet another Saved by the Light proc, and it is going to force the Ice Block. Uh-oh, this is not looking good for Butter a Carb. I mean, that was a great offensive push, but he is going to have both Maldiva and Shamguard just standing on top of him, waiting for the block to fade, and it did. Gorecki's taking a bunch of damage, tossing out 2 Star Surges, but look at the health of Luminosity, completely full. However, we are 50% into dampening.
Yeah, at this point, Danny Carey's heal over time effects are not going to be able to keep anybody up, and there's that Deep Freeze coming out onto Danny Carey. Maldiva could be in some trouble here as Rosita Jones is standing right there. He's trying to get the Ring of Frost off, and it lands onto Danny Carey.
And Shamguards.
And Shamguards as well. Yeah, the Fist of Justice now onto Maldiva. Looks like they might be going onto Shamguard. They're having actually, it looks like a little bit of trouble choosing exactly who they want to go after in this situation, which is maybe hurting them quite a bit here as Gorecki now has to run away, dipping down to 50% health. And with Citrix in that fear, Gorecki getting so low, the Save by the Light does proc, and now the entire team of Isbutter as a Carb has to be able to get over out of line of sight here. Rosita Jones dipping low once again, 20% health. The Save by the Light procs. Is there anything that they can do to stay alive at this point? The Divine Shield comes out from Citrix. He's spamming as many heals as he can, but that's it. It's gone now. There is no defensive cooldowns available on the entire team of Isbutter a Carb. There's a Bark Skin. I don't know that that's going to really save them at this point. They have to make something happen right now.
They do. They are going to turn it around onto Maldiva with that stun, but Danny Carey is going to sit in line of sight of him as the poly goes out and does not land. Could have been grounded. Rosita Jones really needs to get some CC out. As Gorecki down to half with that Bark Skin up, but Fear onto Citrix. This is not looking good for Gorecki. Down to 62% health with the Cyclone as he blinks away by himself, but he's taking so much damage from these dots as it goes into bear form, and even Danny Carey is getting into cat form to chase him around, trying to get that Cyclone off, wasn't able to as they push him out of line of sight. Citrix having to chase. This is rough. I can't believe. Oh, now Moonkin timers come back up. Gorecki is going to be Incarnation. Gonna go on to Danny Carey, who has to use his Bark Skin. The Solar Beam comes down, but Danny Carey able to get out of it, and the Iron Bark on him also as a little bit of damage, but an excellent Cyclone onto Rosita Jones to stop that damage. Shamguard's down to half also. Damage is everywhere. 62% into dampening means any target is a viable target.
Yeah, definitely, and with Isbutter a Carb now at full health thanks to that Avenging Wrath from Citrix, this means that Team Luminosity is in a lot of trouble. Shamguards is desperately trying to get over to his healer. Not that his healer can do much at this point with 63% dampening. He's now getting caught in that full Fist of Justice. He could go down right here. 13% health, excuse me. He does manage to catch a couple of heals there and gets back up to above 40% health. This is so back. Anybody could die at any moment in this situation. Now Shamguard's into that Cyclone, unable to help out his team. Maldiva in the Cyclone. They're trying to keep him from being able to take advantage of his Dark Soul as they're trying to focus down Shamguards here at this point. Danny Carey is just spamming those regrowths. He needs to be able to keep his team alive for just a little bit longer as everyone on Isbutter a Carb is starting to get lower and lower. However, there are 2 trinkets available on Isbutter a Carb, and that Ice Block is available yet again, so who do they even kill at this point? They almost have to go after
Shamguard's in a stun right now. I don't know. They're going to go for him. Down to 68% health. Cyclone on to Danny Carey. Also, Shamguard's using the Sham Rage, but he's down to 30%. Where are these heals coming from? Down to 20%. Oh, and they seal the deal. However, Gorecki extremely low, as is Rosita Jones, but wings up on Citrix, but Citrix gets bashed right now. 2 seconds left on his shield. Rosita Jones in trouble right now, but had the block available.
That block being available is so important because now Isbutter a Carb is going to be able to regroup a little bit. This could have been another 2v2 situation, but at this point I don't think there's much that Luminosity can really do. They're trying their best to be able to come back to this, and good on them for it. Like, absolutely keep going for it. This is the finals. They want every single win they can get, but it's looking like it's going to be just too much for Danny Carey to deal with in terms of damage, and Maldiva's going to go down, and that's going to be the first game won for Isbutter a Carb in this series.
73% dampening at the end there. That was huge. I mean, they almost had any pick of their target. Like, we saw Maldiva taking a little damage, but they kept swapping it onto Danny Carey when they could. Yeah. I thought Danny Carey was going to get the kill on Gorecki when he was in cat form. It was so close.
Yeah, absolutely. That was amazing seeing Danny Carey just moving in and trying to kill him.
147k Star Surge.
Well, that's what's scary about those double cooldowns coming out of that Balance Druid. Yeah. 147k Star Surge is a lot of damage to actually deal with. And I don't even know if that was what the kill was. There was just so much damage and so many big chunks of damage coming out through that entire match. So now that does mean that it will be Team Luminosity's pick of what their next map is going to be. And they will have the opportunity, if they want to do any sort of comp switching that they want. We're going to have to see. I'm curious if Isbutter a Carb is actually going to stick with this composition now, or if they're going to go ahead and say, well, we won this one because we switched it up on them. We're not going to keep winning with this composition, because sometimes that can happen. Or if they said, well, we won this one and we lost the other one, so maybe we should stick with this.
I thought this one was a lot closer, too. In terms of Isbutter a Carb had a lot more offensive opportunities. The first 2 matches, I don't think they really did at all. I mean, there was a couple times that they got, Danny Carey low or Shamguards low and stuff, but nothing was lining up. So, I don't know. I think Carb should stick with this. I mean, that damage from Gorecki, I think he caught his stride towards the end of that game. I think the first couple of rounds of cooldowns didn't go that well, got CC'd off of him, but towards the end, I think he was really connecting with his team and lining up their offensive cooldowns a lot better.
Yeah, definitely. So Carb is actually taking a little bit of a opportunity here to sort of discussing the same sort of thing. Like, do we stick with this composition or do we switch around? We'll have to see, but they are going to take a little bit of time here to think about that. So we're going to go ahead and give them that time. Obviously, they need all the time that we can afford to give them. There is a limit on the maximum amount of time that they can take as a delay, but I believe it's a total of 5 minutes that they're allowed, and they haven't used all of that yet, so they do have some time left available to be talking about that. But man, that game, that was intense. There were so many moments. I don't know how Gorecki lived that long in that.
It was smart. He blinked across the map by himself and started healing. We even saw that Nature's Vigil come out for a little bit of extra healing off of that, but I mean, it would have been amazing if Danny Carey dunked him at that point as the cat form, but he must not have had any combo points ready for that situation. Maybe he did, and that Ferocious Bite wasn't that bad, but I mean, 47k Ferocious Bite probably would have ended him at that point.
Yeah, definitely. So we're going to go ahead, while these teams are still talking it out, we're going to go ahead and take another quick commercial break. We will be right back with the rest of these matches. Welcome back, everybody. Apologies for that short break, but we have the match once again ready to go, and we will be jumping into this very, very shortly here. Any second now, the teams are ready, and they have chosen the map. It's going to be Tiger's Peak. And they are going to stick with both of the same compositions as well from what we saw in the previous match. So we will still have Shamguards on the Elemental Shaman. We will have Maldiva on the Affliction Warlock. We'll have Danny Carey on the Resto Druid. That's Team Luminosity, who are currently up 2-1 versus Carb, who will be playing as Rosita Jones on the Frost Mage. We've got Gorecki on the Balanced Druid and Citrix on the Holy Paladin.
And I'm not seeing any changes so far from the glyphs or specs. I mean, glyphs or talents, from both of these teams. It's pretty straightforward, exactly what we thought it was. And of course, we are seeing Gorecki on that Moonkin yet again. I want to see him crash right into the enemy team right from the start. I really do, because last time it seemed like that's what they were going for, but maybe they just got a little disconnected from the start, where Rosita and Gorecki weren't on the same target. But that's the big thing they really, really have to do from the start, is they have that option. There's no lead up needed for Gorecki's damage. He really just needs to get in there.
Yeah, and he's actually just sort of jumping around over here on the side at the moment. It's actually Rosita Jones that's going to go in first. Gorecki just now joining him here. Has not used any of his cooldowns yet. He's actually just trying to get a Cyclone out. Does not look like he was able to land that. Now Shamguards with the full Mighty Bash, and now is when the cooldowns are starting to come out from Gorecki. He actually has not... There it is, the second cooldown now coming out from Gorecki, and here's when we're going to start to see all of this damage coming out from the Moonkin. It looks like they're focusing primarily on Maldiva at the moment, who does have his Dark Soul active and trying to put out as much damage as possible, but actually the damage is relatively split between all three members of Team Luminosity.
Yeah, I mean, even we have cyclones coming out, or hurricanes at this point, as Gorecki is trying to land a cyclone, but he's not having a lot of luck with his CC so far. So we're seeing that Rosita Jones is taking a bunch of damage so far, as we have a bash onto Gorecki as Citrix is sitting back. But he's the one that's going to be tossing out those denounces, which helps his team a lot stay offensive. As Wings come out, as he's going to try to keep Gorecki's health up to full, as Gorecki is going to push in and is really going to try to initiate. We see Shamguards having to use Shamanistic Rage, as Maldiva was in CC right there, but so Maldiva did hold on to one of his Dark Souls though, because normally we see him use two of them right away in every single match. So we'll have to see if that's going to play later into the game, if holding that CC worked out for him.
Yeah, definitely. Shamguards will have his Feral Spirits up again in just about 30 seconds, so that may be when we're going to see all of those cooldowns come out again. Of course, Danny Carey now stuck into this bash caught over here. Are they going to be able to follow up? Yes, in fact, they do follow that up with the Polymorph, and they might start trying to put some damage into Shamguards, but seriously, the amount of healing this early in the game that the Enhancement Shaman is able to put out is fairly impressive. Shamguards pretty much keeping himself alive along with the heal over time spells from Danny Carey, so it's not going to be too much trouble at all.
Danny Carey actually went in for a bash right there and got cycloned. Gorecki knew that was coming, so started casting the cyclone before he blinked away, so that was really smart, as Gorecki is going to kind of play in the backfield a little bit more. He was playing very offensive at the start, positioning himself almost on top of the enemy. As we go back and see, Rosita Jones and Gorecki are playing on top of each other right now, but they're going to start pushing in a little bit more, but it doesn't seem like they're going to switch targets. It's going to be Shamguards, as we see the Deep coming out with a Cyclone as the follow-up CC. Let's see if they can get anything else out of that, because it is 1 second to go on that, as Danny Carey is free right now, as it looks like Danny Carey is also helping out with the damage onto Gorecki.
Ooh, Gorecki actually dipping super low there for just a second, getting down to 30% health and actually forced to pull back here a little bit. Fortunately, Citrix able to keep him alive without having to spend any major cooldowns, so that's good news for Carb, as it looks like they're actually playing fairly defensively at the moment. They keep cycloning DPS, and now actually Polymorph overlapping with a Cyclone on Maldiva there for just a second, just trying to make sure they limit the amount of damage that goes out. Maldiva has now used his Dark Soul again. He had both of them available again for just a second, actually.
Oh, and lots of damage coming into Shamguards. Yeah, that he dipped quite low right there, but already had the Iron Bark. Danny Carey knew that this damage was coming, so there was a great preemptive Iron Bark on that. So Gorecki getting interrupted by Shamguards, as Shamguards is chasing him down. It looks like trying to push in. I don't know if this is a smart idea for Shamguards to go this far away from Danny Carey at this point. Maldiva's getting CC'd a bunch. There we go. Shamguard's pulling all the way back right now. Kind of a little reset to the last situation that started. Let's see if they can push in and get any CC. There we go. We have the Deep again with the Hodge onto Maldiva. Any follow-up CC on to Danny Carey? Yep, he did get the ring off with the beam onto Maldiva. Ooh. Maldiva getting quite low, tossing out that spell lock to stop a little of the damage. And again, that long CC chain from Danny Carey didn't actually get much out of anyone.
Yeah, definitely. They're turning it back around onto Shamguards, though, dipping down to 10% health there for just a second. He does have that Shamanistic Rage active, which saved his life, because there was so much damage coming out of him, coming out onto him in such a big hurry there. But he will be able to survive. He is now caught into a Cyclone here temporarily, as they're just trying to wait out the rest of that Shamanistic Rage. But unfortunately, he is able to heal back up to full, and Carb once again having a good opportunity to score a kill there, but just not quite being able to secure it.
And they were going for the Deep into the Poly, but that did get Shadow Furied, and then that gave Danny Carey enough time to shift out of it. That was perfect. Not able to sheep while the Druid is in bear form, so that was a great job by Maldiva shutting that down to keep his Druid out of CC. As you can see again, the team of Luminosity is looking quite well going into this. Carb pulls back a bunch and is starting to get into this defensive position again. Of course, that big onslaught onto the team of Luminosity was due to those Moonkin timers, but those are down now. They still have about 2 minutes left before they'll be back up.
Yep, Shamguard's into this bash, though, and Danny Carey into the Deep. Shamguard's now in that full Fist of Justice. Are they going to be able to follow up on this? They do get him into the Solar Beam, but they're not quite able to make too much happen off the top of that. Unfortunately for Carb, they do not have much in the way of offensive cooldowns available at the moment. Not really able to make too much pressure happen. Maldiva might be taking a little bit of trouble here. He's trying to get some haunts out and actually landing one onto Gorecki there. We could see a whole bunch of damage onto Gorecki. The Fear comes onto Gorecki as well, but no, it looks like they may actually be turning this around onto Citrix, as Shamguards is over here just beating the crap out of him behind this pillar. Unfortunately, he's going to get actually looks like Shamguard's a little bit confused at the moment, not sure who he should be going after. Ends up running back and forth a little bit, and now with that Shamanistic Rage active, he's taking a lot of damage, and we see so many Star Surges coming out onto him, but he's going to be able to survive through that just fine.
Yeah, and that was a great job of stopping that ring yet again. Danny Carey in a good position now to heal his team, but it sounds like the communication is to move a little bit. They know if they get pushed back into this corner, it's going to be really bad for Danny Carey to LOS, so they're making sure to keep the mage off to the top of this little gazebo area, as Shamguards is trying to find his target, but again, it's tough for him against these two casters, because he really has to expose himself before he can get anything done. Gets stunned on top of it, plus a beam on top, as Danny Carey knew that was coming, as again, a Iron Bark coming out. See if there's any follow-up CC. They shut it down yet again, but Shamguard's still at half at this point. As he, there we go, he's going to have Ascendance trying to turn it around a little bit on to Rosita Jones. as he's looking for his target, who is blinked away at this point. He's losing a lot of uptime right now, trying to do damage as best he can with those ranged attacks from the Ascendants, but Cyclone yet again.
Yeah, and Maldiva with that Dark Soul coming out, they're trying to get that spread pressure going. Looks like maybe Gorecki as the target of choice at the moment because he is kind of out here in the open for the time being. But Maldiva now in that Cyclone is going to shut down the remainder of that Dark Soul. He will not be able to get too much use out of that. And now it's looking like it's Butter at Carb's turn to once again try to turn this around. They're going after, they actually got a Cyclone onto Shamgar's, just trying to mess with the positioning of Luminosity, get somebody caught in a bad spot, and then punish them for it.
Moonkin Timers, we have a deep on to Danny as there's no follow-up CC quite yet. Maldiva trying to get some fears off onto Gorecki, which he did as he's dumping damage. And I love that they're swapping really fast. They immediately went onto Maldiva and then they switched it onto Shamgards because they saw he was out of position a little bit as tons of damage coming out, forcing the Sham Rage also, but that's all they're going to get out of these Moonkin Timers so far.
Yeah, definitely. They need to be able to force more of those major cooldowns. Like, Danny Carey still has his Nature Swiftness available, and I guess that's really all the trinket is still available as well. There isn't too much else that they could force. They did manage to get the Iron Bark out shortly before then, and now Shamgar's getting just constantly rooted out here. He's constantly slowed and rooted, and just has not been able to stick to his targets the way that he wants to, and be able to continue putting out tons of damage. Now Citrix using his Avenging Wrath to try and top off his team. The Fist of Justice onto Shamgards. He could be in a little bit of trouble here if they can get any form of CC over onto Danny Carey. Danny Carey has already used his Nature Swiftness and his trinket, so anything they can land onto Danny Carey at this point could be trouble for Vanguards, but no, he's actually just going to be completely fine. Danny Carey is doing a great job staying over here behind this pillar, only popping out to drop off those heal over time effects and then getting right back out of line of sight, actually spending the majority of his time into the form so that he can't be polymorphed either. Yeah,
Gorecki taking a lot of damage, forced a sack out of Citrix. That is going to sit full, as it looks like he was going in for a Hodge right there. Does get it onto Shamgards, who Sham Rages out of cast Sham Rage because they know the damage is coming onto him. Danny Carey already sitting in form away from it as we're looking for some damage. They do Cyclone Shamgards at about half as he's going to come out of that. And again, not too much done by the team is Butter Carb because Danny Carey's just doing such a great job of the hot coverage.
Yeah, and they're also having a really hard time landing CC chains on him. In that last push, Rosita Jones came in, and now here he's going to try it again. He's going to get that deep freeze off. Is he going to be able to land any follow-up CC? Yes, they do get the polymorph onto him. He does not have his trinket available, so Shamgards could be in a little bit of trouble, but recognizing that, Shamgards immediately gets over here behind this pillar, says, all right, you're going to CC my healer. I'm just going to make it so you can't hit me. Now Gorecki might be in trouble. He does have that Bark Skin active, but the Save by the Light is proccing Citrix now into that bash. Gorecki at 26% health. Citrix having to use his Divine Shield to be able to top him back off, and that's a big cooldown to be forced by Team Luminosity.
It is, as Maldiva does throw out that Dark Soul, so he's going to try to get those dots up, but immediately gets stunned on it. As we see the deep into the poly, they're going to go on to Maldiva at this point. He's going to port away, but that wasn't very far. However, that puts him a step closer to his healer, Danny Carey, but Danny Carey is in CC right now, followed by that Cyclone. Maldiva is just rotting down as the Solar Beam comes down on top of it, but Danny Carey is out of it now. He's able to toss those treants out to help out healing a little bit. They're going to Cyclone Maldiva at this point and poly Shamgards. So they're just trying to stop a lot of the offensive pressure at this point. But Moonkin Timers come up by Gorecki right now as he's going to start dumping the Star Surges into Maldiva, taking a lot of damage, but no CC onto Danny at this point as he does get knocked away a bit as Starfires come out as he's looking for that Star Surge damage onto Shamgards. They're going to DPS straight through Sham Rage. As Danny Carey into that poly, this is what they need to set up for the kills as he gets extremely low. Shamgards down to 20k as trying to heal himself, and he's spamming the healing surges on himself, keeping himself alive as the Moonkin Timers fade at that point, even though Danny Carey was in a deep at that point. Wow, Shamgards barely lived during that as he's going to take a lot of damage. And with the follow-up Cyclone onto Danny Carey, Shamgards goes down. Wow. Yeah,
wow. So that's going to tie us up 2-2 between Luminosity and Is Butter a Carb. And that was a surprising, like, I could sort of tell, like, we were sort of watching this, and it's like, okay, yeah, Shamgar's he's going to be totally fine here right now. And then all of a sudden, Comet Storm, and he's just completely dead. So that was a surprising amount of damage to come out after
It was.
all of that, because there'd been so much burst on him already. You figure at that point, okay, they've done everything they can. But no, the Comet Storm was still waiting, able to come in and finish him off there. That was a lot of damage onto Shamgards there in a hurry. And again, that's going to tie us up 2-2. So Team Luminosity will now have the opportunity once again to pick the next map. We will find out what that's going to be here very, very shortly. Yeah, we're gonna. This is a good finals. This is a great finals to have.
It's really back and forth on these matches. I think that we've seen a lot of cross CC happen once we see the offensive cooldowns go out from both teams. I mean, they did a great job with LOSing on that map. We saw a bunch of every time that Vanguards wanted to push up on his Shaman onto the enemy Paladin, we saw a lot of CC go out onto Danny Carey, so immediately Vanguards knew he had to run away. That's just a bunch of great examples of high-level play.
Yeah, definitely. So just to bring everybody up to speed on what exactly is going on right now, the way that the map and comp picks are working in this tournament, because we do allow that 4-player roster, which allows people a lot more flexibility in changing up their team composition, and even with someone like Goreki, he's able to play so many different characters. But the way that works is that the loser after each round will be able to pick a map, and then the winner of the previous round will declare what composition they want to play on that map. Then the loser has the opportunity to declare their composition at that point as well. So if you pick something like, say, I believe we've already played Blade's Edge in this match. Actually, I don't remember. Have we played Blade's Edge yet?
I don't think so.
No, we haven't. So if, for example, they were to say, let's play Blade's Edge, if Luminosity were to say, let's play Blade's Edge, then Is Butter a Carb might be able to say, oh, well, we don't really want to play this composition on Blade's Edge. We're going to switch to something else. But then Team Luminosity would have the opportunity to say, well, if you're going to play that, then we're going to play this. And that's kind of where it ends at that point. So that's just what the process that we're going through right now, as the admins are finding out what map that Team Luminosity would like to play on, and then we will find out what composition both teams are going to go with going into this.
Because they both have so many options. So let's take a look at how these teams got here today. Of course, we did have our round of 8, which was best of 3, and of course, if you see, Is Butter Carb had to beat GOML in their first round, and then Shake It Off, which was an excellent series, ended up 3-2 in the favor of Is Butter a Carb. So now it's tied up 2-2 in our grand finals, best of 7. And then, of course, Luminosity had to defeat Tony Del Bronx 2-0, and then followed by Hands Up 3-0. But that was, again, close match, even though it was 3-0.
Yeah.
And then ended up where they're at right now, 2-2, tied with Is Butter a Carb.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like Is Butter a Carb, they started off this series a little bit shaky, but they've really found their stride with this comp swap that they've made, going with that Moonkin, and being able to change up a little bit exactly how their pressure works and how their burst works and everything like that. I feel like they've really started to build some good momentum for themselves here. As this is a best of 7 series, it's going to be the first team to win 4 games, so we have at least 2 games ahead of us still to be able to determine what the win is actually going to be. And of course, the way that the map picking rules work, you cannot pick the same map that you've already played up until the 7th game, at which point I believe it goes back to Nagrand Arena if we actually make it all the way to a 7th game. The final map will be played on Nagrand Arena, but we're not there yet. Right now, we will be going to Tolvaron Arena. That will be Luminosity's map choice. And it looks like we're going with basically the same compositions again in this match. But this is a much, much larger map than we've seen out of even like Tiger's Peak. This is a huge map. It's the biggest one in the game with the biggest distances between the pillars. So we'll really have to see how Team Luminosity is planning to play this out.
Yeah, and we don't have any changes on Danny Carey. And it looks like, yep, about the same on Sidetreks. This is exactly what we are expecting in terms of glyphs and talents. And Goreki, no change, using Glyph of Cyclone, for a little extra range. As nothing else has changed for him. As, Rosita Jones, we haven't seen him change anything. Using that in Kenner's Flow, of course, with the Comet Storm and the Ice Nova.
Yep. Yeah, it looks like everybody's sticking with pretty much the same thing again.
Yep.
They're feeling good about the comp and talent choices that they've had so far. And you can sort of tell with how close these games have been, it's not really like both teams are kind of doing everything right. There's just these little moments where the other team has the opportunity to capitalize on either a very small mistake or really anything. just a little bit of a positioning advantage, something like that. Any of these things can really be what determines these matches. It's not so much, I don't think, the composition or the talent choices that they're making, but Rosita Jones actually moving up in here looking like he wants to try to get some sort of CC out, but actually ends up just doing a couple of blizzards instead, probably trying to pull Danny Carey out of stealth. They have managed to find him now and actually putting a ton of damage into him. Now he's into that beam. He does manage to get into bear form, and he's going to get out of line of sight over here, but he had to use every single cooldown available to him except for his trinket to be able to survive that. That's a ton of cooldowns out from him at this point, and now there's a bunch of damage going on to Maldiva.
They turn it right around. The Cyclones immediately onto Citrix. Rosita Jones having to eat a Saved by the Light proc right there, which isn't too great at the start. But this is what I was talking about Gorecki needing to initiate the fight. That's exactly what needs to happen. He used his timers. They really forced Danny Carey into a bad position. They could have swapped onto Shamguards, but then immediately Danny Carey CCing Citrix really led to Rosita Jones having to play kind of scared and pull off.
Yeah, definitely. Maldiva has held on to one of his Dark Soul charges, so we may see, once again, especially since Shamguards has not yet used his Feral Spirit, we may be seeing another good burst opportunity coming out of them here very soon, and that's probably why Carb is sort of taking it carefully and hiding out over here for the time being. They've actually managed to pull Shamguards and Maldiva a good distance away from Danny Carey, which has pulled Danny Carey out into the open. Maybe an opportunity there for Rosita Jones to actually land some CC on him. Danny Carey's going to go ahead and go cat form and come back over behind the pillar here, but Shamguard's caught in that silence beam as well as had that Fist of Justice on him. That's going to pull out the Iron Bark. They're going to Cyclone him on that Iron Bark, waste as much of that as possible. However, he does still have his Shamanistic Rage available as they're going to now start turning this back around onto Rosita Jones.
Now Rosita is going to run back a bit also. He's going to try to get a poly off, blinks away a bit, but we do have a Cyclone on to Gorecki too, which means Danny Carey is pushed way far up at this point. Polymorph attempting to go out, but that gets stopped as Maldiva is sitting in that Cyclone. This is a great job of just tossing out CC, stopping everything. There we go, the double CC. Now they're going to go on to Shamguards with the stun. Shamanistic Rage out and Port immediately, real scared of what could happen.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, the rest of his team immediately taking that portal as well, following right back over there. They're going to heal up behind this pillar, and now Shamguards, with the last little bit of that Shamanistic Rage, is going to come back out here and start trying to turn this around onto Rosita Jones. Of course, Gorecki in the back there still pumping out a ton of damage. Shamguard's actually dipping super low right now. They may be able to kill him directly through the amount of damage that Danny Carey was doing, but no, it's not quite, or excuse me, the amount of healing that Danny Carey was doing, but not quite enough. Now, finally, the bash comes out onto Danny Carey, but it's probably a little too late at this point. As they've used so much of their burst potential to be able to try to nuke Shamguards down before that.
Yeah, but Rosita Jones is pushed way far up, putting Citrix kind of out of position at this point. He's just standing in the middle, kind of a dangerous position for a Shaman to be in. However, look where Maldiva is. He's playing exact opposite, not able to put any CC out on to the Paladin due to his positioning.
Absolutely. So, now Shamgar's just trying to chase back up over here a little bit, trying to get back over onto Rosita Jones and continue connecting, but that's pulling him a little bit out of position, which means once again his healer is going to have to start to follow. I kind of wish actually that Rosita Jones would pull back a little bit more. It looked like maybe they were trying to make something happen onto Maldiva there for a second, but I feel like their best opportunity is to kind of try to bait Shamguards out, get him in a bad position, and then be able to do that blink deep freeze onto Danny Carey and get him into a polymorph and maybe make something happen off that. There's the deep freeze onto Danny Carey, though. He is caught out of form. They might be able to land a polymorph on him. No, they were not able to get that polymorph. So it looks like, once again, they're going to be totally fine. Maldiva now using his Dark Soul. He does still have another one coming up in 30 seconds, but this is going to be a lot of damage coming out from Maldiva here as he's not getting CC'd on this. Finally a polymorph lands on him, but it's immediately broken. And Shamguard's being the target of choice for Is Butter a Carb, but he's looking absolutely fine right now. There is literally everyone's at full health right now.
Yeah, as you can see, Danny Carey doing a great job, switching to the opposite corner of the pillar when he saw Rosita Jones pushed up. And then a great call by Maldiva to be precasting a fear even before Gorecki was going to blink in to go for a stun, so he was just feared away. So that was all of the Balanced Druid timers, both the Incarnation and the Celestial Alignment used right there. Not to too much success, although, as you look at it now, even without timers, Shamguard's getting quite low. Spamming some heals on himself, also with some massive heals from Danny, picking him back up to full. As you can see, neither team really wants to push in at this point.
Yeah, and I feel like this is maybe not going quite as well as Luminosity wanted, because this was their map pick. But they're constantly having to pull Shamguards out. Of course, Gorecki now taking a lot of damage, and Shamguard's just not able to stick to people nearly as much as he wants to. He does put a bunch of damage into Rosita Jones, but they have not yet forced an Ice Block out of Rosita Jones for this entire match, I believe. So it seems like it's not quite working out for them. Now the entire team, though, is pushing in here. Danny Carey trying to get a Cyclone off. He does land one onto Gorecki there. Rosita Jones still taking damage, actually gets locked out on his Arcane trying to get that Polymorph off, and Citrix in this bash. This could spell some trouble for them in the short term, but no, that Ring of Frost comes down and catches Shamguards, and that's going to diffuse this push from Luminosity, and Rosita Jones is going to get top back off yet again, get his Elemental back out, and they're going to be able to try and maybe turn this back around onto Shamguards again.
Yeah, and that's a good position to be in at this point with Gorecki and Rosita Jones standing kind of in a triangle formation away from Danny Carey with Shamguards. But Danny Carey is going to be sitting on that corner. As you can see, the action is really tight and close as we see a deep onto Danny Carey. It looked like Citrix was going to actually go for that stun, but they called him off with that deep freeze, followed by a Cyclone too, so there's a bit of CC going out on Danny Carey, but there's nothing to follow it up at that point because he's already in bear form. Sham Rage having to come out from Shamguards though at that point, so they at least pulled that out.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure what the Shaman Rage was for there. He may have actually used that defensively, as he is running the Glyph of Shamanistic Rage, which dispels magic effects, so there may have been a Fist of Justice or something on him that he used that to break that with. But Shamguard's now caught out kind of in the open here. He does have his healer over there, but Danny Carey's caught into that deep freeze. No follow-up CC onto Danny Carey. Now with this Capacitor Totem falling, that Capacitor Totem actually gets killed right away, so they were not able to land that. I believe he is actually running Totemic Projection. I'll go ahead and check real quick. Yes, yep. In fact, he is. So he could have potentially had a little bit of CC with that, but was not able to. Now Maldiva taking a bit of damage, but he's going to... Basically, these teams, the way that this match is going is everybody takes a little bit of damage, and then somebody gets absolutely, like, the crap beat out of them for just a second in a small CC chain, which we may see here.
Timers right now, yeah, but look, instant fear followed by an instant trinket on that as we have the damage coming out from Gorecki. It's going to be landing on Maldiva, but an Ascendance also to try to make them scared and push back a bit, but it's not working. Rosita Jones staying extremely offensive at this point. They really need to make something happen with this Incarnation and Celestial Alignment, but it doesn't look like too much damage is coming out this second. However, that can change in a heartbeat, but we do have a Fist of Justice onto Shamguards, but look at those hots just tick his life up back to full. You know, that was a great job right there. Danny Carey had him completely pre-hotted going into that Fist of Justice. Didn't even need to worry about dispelling it.
Yeah, definitely. Now, of course, though, Shamguards and Maldiva want to get offensive here.
Oh, yeah.
Maldiva has that Dark Soul still active. Danny Carey now moving up over here, pushing over to this pillar. Carb is getting behind the pillar over here, trying to stay a little bit defensive and perhaps try to turn this around a little bit. The Dark Soul now falling off from Maldiva. He does have that Soul Burn Haunt effect still active, which means that there's a lot of damage from his damage over time effects, but they've mostly been dispelled at this point. He's just now getting them back up onto Gorecki, and they're only really on Rosita Jones otherwise. So really not getting as much use out of that as he would like. Now Shamguard's caught out here, caught in that Fist of Justice into the beam as well. Danny Carey into the deep freeze. He may be in trouble here. No follow-up CC onto Danny Carey though, and the Iron Bark comes out, and with those Treants also helping heal Shamguards, he's going to be totally fine yet again. Yeah,
they really needed cross CC onto Maldiva at that moment, and they weren't able to with Gorecki not pushed up far enough, just quite far enough to Cyclone and to land that, because Rosita Jones got feared trying to land that poly, so he wasn't able to. Danny Carey actually getting a big drink off right now. However, Shamguards is in trouble, up to half right now, but Danny Carey is almost full mana. Rosita Jones, though, taking a lot of damage, having to block because of the fear onto Citrix. It's a great setup by Maldiva. Maldiva getting Cyclone right there. Rosita Jones still has 10 seconds, or 20 seconds on his Cold Snap, too. But that's going to be a lot of damage that they're going to have to do very, very quickly if they want to make this happen, because Hypothermia is going to be falling any second at this point. So it's looking pretty good with Carb out of that last offensive push.
Yeah, definitely. There was some great Cyclones there from Danny Carey, though, that ended up completely negating the healing effect, well, mostly negating the healing effect from the Execution Sentence. The second, literally the instant that the ice block dropped, he went into a Cyclone and then immediately followed up onto that. Would have potentially been an opportunity for them to make something happen, but unfortunately did not work out for them. Now Shamguard's into this beam over here. He's trying to turn it around onto Rosita Jones. Rosita Jones now getting caught in a fear and getting sent a little bit away here. Getting a little bit out of position. His healer is way on the other side of the map. Citrix now moving up over here and trying to keep him alive. Rosita Jones doing a great job of just stealing HOTS, but he's in a little bit of trouble. The Avenging Wrath does come out from Citrix, as well as yet another execution sentence, so that's going to heal him right back up again. They may be trying to turn it back around onto Shamguards, but without any real major offensive cooldowns out just yet, and no CC chain onto Danny Carey at the moment, it's going to be very difficult for them to really make much happen. Now the deep freeze though onto Danny Carey, they may be able to follow it up. No, he very wisely moved out of the way. Now Rosita Jones having to hide. The bubble comes out from Citrix to be able to keep him alive through this. He really wants to hold on to that remaining ice block. He really needs that to be able to push in and be aggressive in this matchup. So they're trying to turn this back around onto Shamguards and put some extra damage in him, and doing a pretty good job. He's dipping down to around 50% health as the Ice Novas come out there. But it's just not enough to be able to score them a kill.
I mean, this is actually pretty good because they're going to be able to deep and try to get a ring off, but again, it gets Shadow Furied. With a Cyclone on top of it, though, that's pretty good. We're going to go for a Polymorph, but also the Solar Beam comes out too. Not as great as I thought it could be. You know, that push was, it was a great thought to do it, but they had to spend a lot of time just actually trying to get the CC off and not much damage into Shamguards at that point. Down to half now, bash on to Danny Carey, followed by a full clone, and that deep does get Shamanistic Raged as Rosita Jones is down to about half and having to pull back a little bit as Citrix was having to Trinket also. So this is actually looking good for Luminosity right now.
Yeah, definitely. Rosita Jones and Citrix both way out of position here temporarily, and they're actually going after the Elemental for just a second. Looks like they want to kill that off because that's been a great source of, in fact, they will be able to kill that off. That's been a great source of getting those deep freezes for Rosita Jones, and really the deep freeze is the only thing that they should really be scared of at this point. Everything else they can interrupt. They've got interrupts like crazy, but the deep freezes are really scary for them. He does manage to get out a new Elemental, and now with that Fist of Justice into the beam on Shamguards yet again,
There's
the deep freeze onto Danny Carey. He could be in a lot of trouble right here. The Polymorph onto Danny Carey and the stun onto Shamguards. Are they going to be able to finish him off right here? 16% health. He's going to get back out of line of sight yet again. He has the Feral Spirits going out, and they're just not able to finish him off.
So they did a great job of lining that up because when the deep freeze landed, Gorecki was already casting a Cyclone into Maldiva at that point. So there wasn't any answer to stop the CC. As it does look like we did have a Star Surge into a grounding totem right there, unfortunately. So that's a little damage lost as Shamguard's doing a great job of trying to stay alive. But look at this damage coming on to him. He has to run away for a bit as we do have a Cyclone on to Danny Carey. It followed up with another Cyclone as Sham Rage just for the defensive benefit at that point as Danny Carey is back with Shamguards. However, he does have the two casters just chasing him around. It's incredible that Danny Carey wasn't CC'd in that moment, but they're choosing to go instead on Gorecki.
Yeah, and Rosita Jones now looking like he might be in some trouble. He's going to have to use that Ice Block, but he did have his Cold Snap available. So as soon as that Hypothermia drops, he will be able to have one once again, and that's going to be so important as we're getting so deep into dampening. They want to stay as aggressive as possible. They've reached the point where Danny Carey's heal over time just doesn't do much, and now the damage going on to Maldiva does force out the Iron Bark. They're going to go ahead and Cyclone him off of that, try to waste as much of that Iron Bark as possible, but does not look like they'll be able to get the follow-up Cyclone onto it as Gorecki is taking lots of damage, as well as Citrix. And they need to be kind of careful here. They've been pulled way out of position. Now it's Citrix that's finding himself caught out in the middle of nowhere, whereas it was Danny Carey earlier on. And now Gorecki moving and being super aggressive. I think being told by his team to pull back for a second.
He went in by himself, which, you know, maybe if it was one of them back there, it would have been fine. But with all three, that is a little rough right now. However, his timers are back and available. So anytime that they can set up that CC chain yet again, there they go. They're going to use them right now. Let's see if they can make something happen. We have a deep freeze onto Danny Carey. Shamguard's taking a lot of damage. Sham raging at the last minute, followed by a stun onto Danny Carey. Shamguard's still sitting at about half, but those Life Bloom ticking away very slowly as no CC on to Danny Carey just quite yet, as Rosita Jones is also taking damage because of that Cyclone on to Shamguards. That was pretty smart, but Gorecki also got Cyclone during that. That was a great trade-off right there as the timers are going to fade, but Shamguard's still taking a lot of damage as another deep goes out. They're trying to get the poly, but they just can't get it off, as Danny Carey is going to be able to get out there and toss some heals out. That Genesis ticking up onto Shamguards at that point, down to half, as another Cyclone is going to land onto Danny Carey with a stun onto Shamguards with no Sham Rage available, down to 22% health, but another Cyclone. This is a great set of CC with the silence on top of Shamguards, and they are going to seal the deal and get a kill onto Vanguards. That was a great play.
Yeah, definitely. The constant CC onto Danny Carey, they just were not able to let him get caught back up. And at this point in dampening, we're 60% dampening at that point. It's just his heal over times are just not doing anything really at that point. So he needs to be out of the CC to be able to keep his team alive. And then with that follow-up silence onto Shamguards at that point, preventing him from casting any of his own healing spells.
Wow.
That's exactly what they needed to finish him off. And that actually means they've now come back from being down 2 games earlier in this series to being up 3-2. If they win this next match, they're going to regionals.
Yeah, and 142k Starfire. That is crazy. That is awesome. You know, getting that bonus of every time that you Star Surge, it's going to buff your next Starfires. So doing a great job of just maximizing the damage there. He actually was the #1 damage in that match, which is a big change from the matches before. So that's good. I really think he's catching his stride on this class, getting way more comfortable on it.
Absolutely. So we will be finding out what map Team Luminosity is going to begin their comeback from very shortly here. And in fact, actually, this is game 6, isn't it? Is there only one map available still? Is the only option Blade's Edge?
Let me see.
Oh, no, it's game 5. Okay, sorry. So a little bit of bad math, unfortunately. Basic addition is very difficult for me sometimes. But Blade's Edge and what is the other map that we haven't seen yet? Was it Lordaeron? Have we not seen Lordaeron yet? I don't think we have.
Let me see if it has the list on here. I don't think it does on the map. That's unfortunate. Okay.
I want to say it's Lordaeron that we haven't seen.
So they're choosing the map. That's why we have admins, because they get to sort that out.
Yeah, exactly. Fortunately, we are not the people that have to make these decisions.
No. So, you know, Tolvaron, that was a great choice. I liked it. I think they did a great job of, you know, Maldiva's team did a great job of shutting down all the offensive pressure. You know, we saw those blink in by Rosita Jones to start the CC chains. Maldiva and Shamguards did a great job of keeping Danny Carey out of CC, but just towards the end, you know, it was that last moment with those Moonkin timers that kind of set up that rolling boulder almost of damage. So it was great. All the CC onto Danny Carey. He did a great job the entire game of avoiding as much as he could. You know, Shamguards also off healing, you know, did 4 million healing during that game, which is great. But then again, you know, Gorecki doing 5 million healing from it. You know, a lot of that Nature's Vigil healing and just helping out a lot.
Yeah, and that's actually a really, really good point for this setup and this comp swap that they made earlier on, in that having that Moonkin Druid there is just a great answer to the off healing that the Enhancement Shaman had available to them before. They, of course, they were playing with Gorecki on his Shaman, and they were playing with Chanimal on his Warlock instead of having Citrix in there on the Holy Paladin. And those matches were really close. They were really, really good matches, but switching up their composition, which is amazing that we have that ability for them to be able to do this and bring in a sub, someone else who can come in and take over for Gorecki so we can play on his Balanced Druid. That's really helped them a lot come back here. So let's go ahead and actually take a look at the brackets real quick just to catch everybody up on exactly how we've gotten to this situation. We started off with Shake It Off getting 2-0 over Nihao, followed by Is Butter a Carb, who is currently up 3-2 in the finals. They were able to take out not only GOML, but then face off against Shake It Off in the round of 5, excuse me, the best of 5 round in round 2. They were able to claw their way back in both of those games, actually. These are the comeback kids here. They are absolutely amazing at these comebacks. And now, with Luminosity having not dropped a single map in this entire qualifier, even the matches that were played before today, never dropped a single map. Now they're suddenly finding themselves down a game in these finals here. So we will be moving on to what could potentially be the last map here. Blade's Edge is actually the only available map. The bad math that I was doing in my head is that, of course, we don't play every single... It's going to be the first 2... that was game 5. Yep. This will be game 6. Yes.
Yeah. So now that they've locked in their comps, we do have a little bit of a change. And of course, if any of you guys are your home favorite Ret Paladin might be showing up in this match. And of course, that is going to be Vanguards on Ret.
Yeah, and I mean, I like this choice to switch this up and go with, especially here on Blade's Edge. It's a little bit weird to play a Retribution Paladin instead of playing the slightly more mobile Enhancement Shaman on Blade's Edge, but excuse me, I still feel like a big part of what they're going to be able to do to score a win on this map is be able to put a ton of damage into one of the members of Is Butter a Carb, force them to jump down to try and break line of sight from Maldiva, at which point they have the opportunity to get people out of position and be able to score a kill off of that. So I'm really, really excited to see how Team Luminosity is able to work this around here. And of course, seeing Vanguards on his Ret Paladin just sort of takes you back. It's what he became famous for, so I'm really, really excited to see him pulling it out here in the finals of the Online Qualifier Cup 1.
Yeah, thing to note is Citrix is still using Unbreakable Spirit, even though they did switch away from the Enhancement Shaman. So he's not going to have Clemency for those double bops and those double Hand of Sacrifice, as Vanguards is going to try to initiate from the start, trying to get over there, and looks like he's going to try to hit Rosita Jones, but Danny Carey getting immediately deeped with a Fist of Justice onto Vanguards. Maldiva answering by putting out those timers and using that Dark Soul and trying to get as much dots as he can onto the enemy team. Vanguards is really the person that needs to make things happen, as he's going to run over, and he really had to spend a lot of time to initiate that CC. Moonkin timers coming out right now. Looks like they're going to try to hit Maldiva with them, but not a lot happened with them, as Maldiva sitting at about half. It did force looks like no cooldowns out from Danny Carey, as wings come out from Vanguards with the Holy Avenger also, but again, not too much damage coming out. It did, however, we looked like Citrix did choose to use his wings at that point, so he's able to keep his enemy team, or his friendly team, up during that time.
Yeah, definitely. And Gorecki did a great job there. As soon as Vanguards popped his cooldowns, he found himself caught in back-to-back Cyclones, and that's why we really weren't seeing much damage come out from that, because he just wasn't able to ever actually use any of his offensive abilities while he had his big cooldowns active. And that's really what they're going to have to constantly do every single time those cooldowns come up. And they're relatively short cooldowns. They're going to have to use that every single time. Now Vanguard's moving out here, and he looks like he's going to try and keep some pressure onto Rosita Jones, but really he's in kind of some trouble here. He's going to have to dip back over here out of line of sight and let Danny Carey heal him back up. Now with that Hand of Freedom, though, coming out, he's going to run right past that Frost Orb and immediately into a Polymorph, unfortunately. He does manage to get the stun out onto Citrix. They might be able to try to make something happen out of this, but Maldiva takes a lot of damage, does get the Iron Bark, and with Vanguards back into that Cyclone, it looks like Is Butter a Carb is just, they know exactly what they need to do to be able to beat this team.
All right, now let's see. Vanguards is going to be trying to stick it to his target, but he's constantly getting CC'd, not having too much luck damage-wise so far in this match. His wings really didn't do a lot for the first set. We'll have to see what happens as he gets his second set, which will be up in about 20 seconds at this point. He does have all of his defensive cooldowns available also, as it looks like we are going to see a lot of Star Surges come out onto Maldiva with a silence on top of it too, due to that solar beam, but Gorecki not forcing too much out of there. You know, we didn't see any Nature Swiftness or Iron Barks used during that. Danny Carey caught in the deep, though, and there we go. Now they're going to turn around onto Vanguards, who has to Execution Sentence himself, trying to get some heals off, as Vanguards healed up to full. Danny Carey trying to toss some Cyclones out, but unsuccessful at this point.
Yeah, important thing to note about Execution Sentence, the nerf that it experienced recently was changed to only apply to Holy Paladins, so it's still a pretty huge defensive cooldown for Retribution Paladins, and now Vanguard's popping these big offensive abilities, trying his best as he can to stick on Rosita Jones, and Rosita Jones taking a ton of damage, actually going to have to Ice Block right here. Looks like he wanted to try and, Vanguard's wanted to try and switch that around over onto Gorecki. Gorecki now getting the Execution Sentence. Vanguard's stuck in this Frost Nova for just a second. He's going to come over here and start trying to put some more damage into Rosita Jones, but he dips so low. He's having to run away. He does manage to get his Divine Shield off.
Oh, wow. I can't believe he got that Divine Shield off. Yeah. Those Star Surges struck just as he was doing that. Of course, that is on the global cooldown, so he had time. But look at this. They're going to turn it right around onto Maldiva, as it's going to take a lot of damage, as he's going to try to pour it back, and he's in a Cyclone at low health. That's really smart. They need some CC onto Danny Carey now. But there we go. Now the poly comes out and the deep on to Vanguard. But it looks like they're not going to have too much follow-up damage. They try to bash Maldiva with another polymorph onto Danny Carey at this point. They're trying to set it up, but they're not having any success. That was really close, though, on both Vanguard's getting his bubble and Maldiva taking a ton of damage, which forced out the Nature Swiftness during that.
And look at how good Danny Carey is at sensing when he's about to get caught into one of those instant CCs, either the Deep Freeze or the Fist of Justice. He is just every single time in this match, every time one of those lands, he's already in cat form, so he cannot be polymorphed off of that. Now it looks like they're trying to make something happen on Rosita Jones down here. Rosita Jones does still have an Ice Block available, but there's so much damage coming out from Vanguards, and he hasn't even used his cooldowns yet. He does manage to get a execution sentence that was from Citrix. That's a healing execution sentence onto Rosita Jones. It's going to top him back off, and now with this Ring of Frost coming down, Vanguards could find himself in some trouble here. The full Fist of Justice onto him. Danny Carey still caught into that Ring of Frost, and it's just too much damage coming out from Gorecki, and that is going to be the end of it. Is Butter a Carb? I don't know, you tell me, but they just won the finals here of the North American First Online Qualifier Cup, winning 4-2 over Luminosity, a team that hadn't dropped a single game up until this point. Coming back from a 2-0 deficit early on, this was an absolutely amazing finals and very, very well played to both of these teams. Is Butter a Carb will be our first team to qualify for the Americas Regionals later this year.
Yeah, congratulations to Chanimals, Gorecki, Rosita Jones, and Citrix. I'd have to say, if we're going to talk about MVPs of the tournament, let's shout it out. I think it would have to come down between Rosita Jones and Gorecki's balance play in the last couple matches. But overall, I'd have to say for that team, Rosita Jones really set those kills up for them.
Yeah, definitely. I do think there's a lot to say, though, about Gorecki's ability to be playing Resto Shaman for their first couple of matches, and then just completely shift gears and go on his Balanced Druid. He's just an amazing multi-classer, so for him to be able to do that and then be able to bring his team back, obviously along with Rosita Jones and Citrix, to be able to come back from that deficit and take that win, that is absolutely amazing. So very, very well played to both of these teams. That is going to be the last match that's played here today. We will have 2 more additional follow-up cups coming in which more teams will be able to qualify. So if your favorite team didn't make it today, not to worry. There was only 1 qualifier position available from today's cup. The next cup, which will be Online Cup 2, that will be happening on August 1st, and 2 teams will qualify from that competition. And then the final cup, Online Cup 3, will be happening on August 15th. Leading up to that point, we'll be broadcasting on August 15th, and 3 teams will actually qualify from that for a total of 6 that will be moving on to the Americas Regionals later this year, and meeting up with 1 team from Latin America and 1 team from Australia, New Zealand.
Yeah, a bunch of exciting matches today. This is only our first online qualifier cup for the summer.
Yep.
You know, this is all leading into the American Regionals, and of course, the top 2 teams or 3 teams from that. I'm not sure what our setup is this year, but get to go to BlizzCon. So it is going to be the top 3 from those American regionals. So, you know, this is the total road to BlizzCon this summer. I'm excited for more exciting matches. These were so great. I mean, every round that we had was just a nail-biter down to the end. Even the matches that were 3-0 weren't even close.
Yeah. Absolutely. I also want to give a huge amount of thanks to our admin team at GCD TV for putting together all of the effort that went into making sure that these matches went off smoothly. This was one of the smoothest tournaments I think that I've ever had the opportunity to commentate. Really, really amazing. Well done to those guys. If you are unfamiliar with GCD TV, you should definitely check them out when they're not adminning the online qualifiers, the official Blizzard online qualifiers. They do have weekly tournaments on twitch.tv/GCDTV. You should definitely check those out. They are amazing, amazing games. And a lot of the teams that we see playing here today are actually regulars in the GCDTV tournaments. So definitely check them out. You can also follow them on Twitter at GCDTV_. There's an underscore on the end of it, but definitely check them out. Also, feel free to follow the Warcraft Facebook and Twitter, facebook.com/Warcraft, twitter.com/Warcraft, and so on. If you missed any of the matches here today, maybe you tuned in a little bit late, there will be a VOD available later for you to go back and watch all of the previous matches if you just like to see how everybody got to this point. And yeah. That, I think, is about where we ended up with that. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Jared, so much for being here and commentating with me today. Where can people find you on Twitter?
At Twitter /IamVHill. If you want to keep up with WoW esports stuff.
Yeah,
I guess.
absolutely. You can also find me on Twitter at @CM_lore. Again, this has been an absolutely amazing series. Congratulations to Team Is Butter a Carb, who now, I believe, have the privilege of deciding whether or not butter truly is a carb or not. But they will have that qualifier position in the Americas Regionals later this year. Thanks again so much, everybody, for watching, and we will see you guys for Online Cup 2 on August 1st.